Okay, hello everyone. I'm Carl with the Streetwise English Podcast, and today we have a special guest, Brian. He's got many different AKAs, so I'll let him introduce how he wants to represent himself today. But Brian is an exceptional musician, language learner, language teacher, and he's an international man. He's currently talking to us from Taiwan, right? He's on the rock.
Yeah, that's right. Taiwan.
Taipei, Taiwan. And so let's get started. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope that we have some interesting little sparks fly here. And I know Brian very well, so well that we wear matching clothes. Check this out.
There we go. There it is.
he's got his Timur's octopus. You can't really see it, but yeah. Okay, so Brian, can you tell us really briefly your name and your artist name and where you're from and where you are today?
Yeah, man. It's going to be hard to live up to that introduction that you gave me. But I'm Brian. As you said, as Carl said, we've known each other for a long time, like 25 years or something, right? Mm-hmm. And so I do a lot of different things. I wear a lot of different hats, as they like to say. In terms of artist name, right now I'm working with a band called The Church of Loops. It's me and a good friend, and we use a loop machine. He beatboxes, I play guitar and keyboard. We both play several different instruments. And for that band, I'm going by Reverend Bodhi. I did the whole dirty tofu thing for a while. I don't really operate under that moniker so much anymore. But with the Church of Loop stuff, we still do a lot of rap, a lot of hip hop. But it's the music is just kind of all over the place, because what we do is we take the looper, we plug in a couple mics, we plug in some instruments, and we just see what happens. He'll just put down a beat. I'll throw down a bass line, he'll throw down a piano, I'll throw down some guitar, and the songs just kind of evolve spontaneously in the moment. And so it's cool, because every time we jam, it's like I get to go listen to a band that I like making new music that I haven't heard before, because it doesn't even feel like I'm doing it, It feels like I'm just observing it happening through us. I don't know, it's kind of neat.
Okay, so that's like extreme musical improvisation, right?
Yeah, everything's improvised. Sometimes we'll take a word or a phrase, like if we're doing a live stream and somebody gives us a word or a phrase or something, we'll just create a song around it. Or one of us will say something that the other one thinks is really silly or funny, and then we'll just start making something up about that.
Okay. And where can people find your music? Let's just get this in here before.
Right now, we only got YouTube. We don't have yet. I mean, we've just started, so we don't yet have a Facebook or an Instagram. But when we do, it's going to go under the same name. So if you're on YouTube, just search for The Church of Loops.
The Church.
Loops.
The Church of Loops.
The Church of Loops. Yeah.
Loops. Okay, like rings,
Loops.
like loops. So the music is looping. So he creates like a beat or rhythm or sound, and then it loops, and then you build it like it in layers, right? Or it kind of progresses.
Exactly.
The beat progresses.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Actually, yeah, this is good. So I wanted to talk to you about music and how that music tied us into language learning, because many of the people listening to this podcast, besides my friends and family, are interested in learning the English language. And so by having this conversation, they can listen to our natural American English. And so you've studied many languages. And can you tell us, I want to tie this into music and language learning, how how those two have interacted and complemented each other. And so can you tell us how many languages you speak and what they are?
Yeah, for sure, man. I speak 3 languages. So English, and as you know, Mandarin Chinese. We learned that together. I assume that your audience knows you're a fluent Chinese speaker, and Korean as well, because I lived in Korea for about 8 years. I can also read some ancient languages and stuff just from part of my linguistic study, like Greek, that sort of thing. But in terms of living languages that I can speak, obviously I'm a native speaker of English. You and I are both very fluent in Mandarin, And I would consider myself to be proficient in Korean. I don't think I would go as far as saying fluent, but I can order a meal and I can ask a taxi driver to take me somewhere. I can, tell somebody to leave me alone if I need to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Brian's very humble. So if so when you say that going back to music, I know you've actually written and performed songs in Mandarin Chinese. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there's been a couple songs that I actually wrote and performed in Chinese. I guess the one again, if we want another YouTube plug, you can go to YouTube and search for MC Dirty Tofu, and that was actually for your audience here. Carl and I made this video together. Carl is an excellent videographer, and he makes some killer music videos. And so this was actually, I don't know if I ever told you that you were the reason that I decided to move to Taiwan in the end, because for your audience sake, we were here, I was here in Taipei on a 10-day holiday, and I was crashing on Carl's sofa, and he said, "Hey, Brian, let's make a video. I want you to write a rap song in English and Chinese about Taiwanese street food, and we're gonna just like record this thing. We're gonna do it." And so we did. We worked really hard. We hunkered every morning. We'd go to the coffee shop and we would just sit there writing and rewriting lyrics. And eventually we went. We got an actress friend and we went to the Rauha night market, filmed the whole thing. And then how long did we spend after that in post-production? I mean, it was like a couple months, right? Of just tweaking the song and tweaking the video like remotely.
I think the thing that took the longest was like doing the bilingual subtitles for the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted to have
It's so
everything
hard.
perfectly translated, and that's like impossible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you write lyrics in Chinese, is that difficult to do? Is it more difficult than
Yeah.
writing in English?
Definitely, man. Definitely. Excuse me. I've been drinking some Dr. Pepper. It's making me a little gassy. Yeah. When I write lyrics in English, I have to say that my songwriting process has always felt like it feels more like channeling than writing. Something will pop into my head and I'll be like, oh, that sounds pretty dope. Let me just try to like work with that. And it's a lot of times I'll just pick up a guitar and I'll just try to figure out what I'm hearing in my head. And the lyrics will be the same thing. The less I engage my thinking monkey mind and the less I judge what I'm hearing in my head, the more I just let that flow come out of me, the better the music is. And I'll be honest, I am not at that point with Chinese. I'll get moments of inspiration, a line of lyrics or a couple lines will pop into my head and I'll jot them down. But then I actually do need to go and put some work into trying to make it match and make it sound good with the overall song I'm trying to go for.
Okay, so it's more like a structured like writing exercise, like writing poetry, whereas in English it's just free flow, right? Like it's just channeling through you, and you're not thinking too much about it. You're just kind of like a vessel, and you're, I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, I'd say that's about a 90% accurate description, because there is a little bit of like editing that I have to do. Like, hold on, excuse me. When I, if a song comes to me, I'll jot it all down, I'll sing it, I'll record it. And then I do need to spend some time going back and be like, okay, this part sounds kind of awkward, or that part needs to change. So there's that small percentage of, what I would consider work that goes into it. But whereas when it's Chinese, it's like maybe the opposite way around. 10, 20% of what I write in Chinese, it just flows. It just comes to me, and then I have to actually use my knowledge and dictionary to go back through and make it. I mean, and you know how Chinese works too. I remember you used to do some of that xiangsheng kind of stuff with the guys from Dongbei in China. Like if you have one line in Chinese, you can write one line of maybe 5 characters, and the second line, each character will be a matching meaning or an opposite meaning of the characters in the line above. So it really weaves together so tightly in a poetic way that English usually doesn't do. And so writing poetry of any kind in Chinese, really, it's a much more thoughtful process, at least in my experience. It requires a lot more thought and a lot more intention than just, you put on a beat and I'll just start making stuff rhyme, right, in English. I can't do that in Chinese yet.
Okay. Yeah. And then talking about the thoughtful creation of lyrics and then also translation. Can you tell us a little bit about? I know that you've taken on a giant. I don't know what the word is I'm trying to say here, but you've taken on this giant project of translating the Tao Te Ching into
poetic English.
Poetic. I was trying to say prose. Poetic English. Yeah. So each line has a rhyming pattern. And can you introduce us to that and talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, for sure, man. For your listeners who may not be as familiar with the Tao Te Ching, it's a really old scripture in Chinese culture. It was written really long time ago. I think 500 or 600 BC. If I'm remembering correctly. It's very old. And it's written by someone called Lao Tzu, who was a counselor to the emperor at the time, the king. And so a lot of what he has written, it's like advice on how to rule a country, but also it's like advice on how to rule your own heart. You know what I mean? It's very inner. The concepts are very deep, very thoughtful, very much about your inner cultivation. And the first time I read it, a buddy in Korea handed me an English translation, and I fell in love with it within the first few lines. I started reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is really powerful stuff. It was several months later, or maybe even a couple years later. Now, this is a long time ago. I got my hands on a Chinese version. I got a version that was a parallel, the original Chinese and modern English translation. And as I was reading through the ancient Chinese of it, I was amazed because the way that Lao Tzu wrote this thing, it rhymed, it had meter, it had humor, it had irony, and it wasn't, if you've ever read like a translation of the Tao Te Ching, most translators will translate the first line, the way that can be spoken of with words is not the everlasting way. It's very philosophical. They really try hard to translate it exactly. And the first line of the Tao Te Ching says, if you can talk about it in words, that's not it, right? He starts his book by saying, look, listen, if you can talk about this shit that I'm about to tell you, then you haven't got it, right? And so I kind of set myself an impossible task. But as soon as I read it in Chinese, I kind of knew in my heart, I was like, yeah, one day I'm going to have to translate this, and I'm going to have to translate it into singable English. It's going to have to be something that is going to have rhythm and patterns and rhyme that people can like attach to,
So you've translated the entire,
something that makes it stick.
You've translated the entire thing into prose?
Into poetry. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've actually, I'm done with the translation part now. And I'm still working on the edits. I'm going to hopefully publish it sometime this year. I'm hoping to get it out soon. But it still needs some editing. It still needs some tweaking, but it's basically done.
Now, do you have any parts of the Tao Te Ching in Chinese and English memorized that you've done, or is that too difficult? Do you have anything like you could, a line that you're proud of that you've translated that you can say in Chinese for us and then say the English counterpart?
Yeah, I could do that actually. Just a couple lines, you mean, or do you want like a whole...
something simple that our listeners, especially if we have some Chinese listeners that maybe are familiar with the Tao Te Ching, or
Sure.
international listeners.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't expecting to do that. I think I have a tab open somewhere on my browser here with the Tao Te Ching in Chinese because I was looking at it. I'm gonna have to find that. It's gonna take a minute.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. All right, I'll just do this one more time, okay? All right, here is my translation of the Tao Te Ching, chapter 2. All can see beauty, and all call it so. I'm going to start again because I don't like my pronunciation right now. So
Okay.
This is my translation of the Tao Te Ching, chapter 2. All can see beauty, and all call it so. From this, their naming, ugliness flows. All can see goodness and call it the same. This same recognition gives badness its name. Having and lacking produce one another. Easy and hard, completing each other. Longness and shortness are mutually formed. Upward and downwardness mutually born. Sound and voice in harmony pour. Before follows after, and after before. Therefore the wise deal in actionless acts. Give wordless instruction, the truth beyond facts. Let all things arise and make not a sound. To have and not hold, to be and not be bound. Lingering not on accomplishments gained. When success is not dwelt on, success can remain.
Wow, that was awesome.
Thanks,
That was
man.
beautiful. Yeah. So
81 chapters.
wow. So you said that you're pretty much complete. You've completed all 81 chapters, and now you're just doing final polishing and revisions, like icing on the
Kind
cake.
of, yeah. I mean, there's one or two chapters that that really kind of need to be reworked. You know, I've been working on this for years. And so if you take a chapter that I translated in the very beginning of my process and I read it again now compared to the Chinese with my understanding as it is now, you know, I've grown and matured as a person. And so there are things that I would change. And so there are some chapters that I'm actually reworking at the moment. But for the most part, it's final edit stage. Couple chapters are being, you know,
It's
reviewed and reworked.
It's very, very, very impressive. I know that my Chinese friends in Beijing, they used to say, you know, you can speak good Chinese, but you really need to learn the classical Chinese, like your friend Brian, because that's the heart of the Chinese language. You need to step things up to the next level. So for all of our friends out there who are whatever language you're studying, if it's English or Chinese or French or whatever it is, you can always take things, you know, to another level, either higher or deeper, however you want to look at it. And so that reminds me, it's like there's a never-ending pursuit of improving your language abilities, right? And so I know that we talked about this before we started recording, but you mentioned that before you've studied, you know, the Tao Te Ching is kind of in this Taoist realm, but you've also looked at different religions, Christian and Buddhist and this and that, and you had a story about a Buddhist meditation practice or something involving a Buddhist nun. Can you share
Right.
with us
Yeah.
that story?
Yeah, it's not really so much a meditation practice. Just I teach English. That's one of the many things that I do. It's, you know, a way to earn money, and oftentimes the clients that I meet end up becoming friends, and ends up being like a really cool and valuable relationship. And a few of my clients are actually nuns from the Buddhist monastery here in Taiwan. Zen Buddhism is huge in Taiwan. You know, as a result, you get some great vegetarian options for food. Just, you know, you can go to a veg buffet real easily here. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I got stuck thinking about food. I was remembering when you used to take me to the Hare Krishna buffets. Remember,
Yeah.
we would get these like huge plates of like vegetarian goodness for like $5.
Yeah.
I remember I used to go to the Krishna lunch on my campus at University of Florida. Almost every day that I didn't have classes at the time they were there, I would go and I would like load up on these like tasty like vegetarian meals, and like Wednesdays was like spaghetti day, and they had this like tofu spaghetti, and like you would just see me like passed out under a tree with like a saucy empty plate next to me and ants crawling everywhere because I was just in a food coma.
They're everywhere, man. I'm currently in Las Vegas, and they have a Krishna temple here with a vegetarian buffet that is delicious. And it's
Nice.
always like very, you know, it's always cheap. And then it's a buffet,
Right.
which means that it's unlimited. You can have 1 plate, 2 plates, 3 plates.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
yeah, the sky's the limit. Okay, so
You know,
you're
man, I don't know if I ever told you. Like, sorry, I want to stay on this distracting tangent for a minute. When I was really young, I don't know, just out of high school or just in university or whatever, I was like, you know, why is it when everybody like curses, like when they swear, it's always like Jesus, oh, Jesus H Christ, you know, like people always like use the name of Jesus, but nobody's ever like, you know, talking about Buddha or like Muhammad or Lao Tzu, any of these other great teachers, you know? And so for a while I was just being a smart ass, but like every time I would stub my toe or drop something, I'd be like, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. People around me are like, what the fuck is this guy doing, man? Like, what?
yeah, that's a mouthful.
Yeah. I intentionally picked like the longest like teacher name I could find.
Did you just make that up,
Memorized it
or
just
did you really do that?
No, that's the guy who wrote the Bhagavad Gita as it is, which is like the main book of the Hare Krishna movement.
But you
like
really did that as a kid? You would say that, or as a college student?
Yeah, I mean, I was like 18 or something. Yeah, this is a smart ass like 18-year-old, and I would like just whenever I would like drop something, I would remember that I would say that name just then. Takes 10 minutes to say, but it's great, you know. Just trying to diversify my cuss words, you know.
Yeah, talking about that like religious cuss words. I remember the first time I heard a friend. I haven't been around a lot of people that are Catholic, but I was around this friend, and he lost his ATM card, and we were traveling. It was a road trip, and that he left his ATM his bank card in an ATM, and it was in Mexico. And this is a gringo guy, an American guy, but he was fluent in Spanish, and he was a good friend, and I think he was raised as Catholic. 15, 20 years, I don't know. But anyways,
okay.
Once he lost the card, instead of saying all these curse words, profanity, he said, Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, or something like that. Like all three. And I guess it's a Catholic thing, because I never heard it. But then after I heard it one time, I heard it again. And I was just like, are you kidding me?
You get the whole Holy Family in there, man, you know?
Yeah, and he was serious. He was not joking around. He was angry as hell. I mean, he was pissed. I mean, it was an emergency. You lose your bank card when you're traveling. That's a big deal. But
20 years ago in Mexico as well, man. Like you're probably just across the border as well. So probably Juarez or something like that, right? Like
somewhere.
Probably a place that
we were driving for
like a resort in Cancun.
No. We were driving for like 15 days through the middle of Mexico, and then he I was like trying to be the cool one, right? I was like, well, let's just think about where you had your card last, and let's go back there. And then we ended up driving, because we were at the grocery store. We were buying groceries for the road trip, and then he pulled out his card, and it was gone. And so then I used my card and bought it. But then we said, okay, well, let's see, where did you go last? And then we ended up tracking back to where he pulled out cash last, and he left his card in the ATM machine at the bank. And that they had a system where either someone turned it in or the machine ate it, and then he was able to show his ID and recover his bank card. So
great,
he was really lucky, but he was having a panic attack and cursing these religious curses.
Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus. Specifically baby Jesus, too.
Yes. I couldn't believe it. Okay, so getting back to this Buddhist nun, where were we going with this?
So these classes I teach English to Buddhist nuns, and so it's really cool because oftentimes it's just like it's a conversation class. They're just trying to improve their spoken English, and so they just want to talk about stuff. And so I will ask my questions. You know what I mean? I'm not Buddhist, but I read Buddhist scriptures. I have a lot of questions, right? Like, I'm not a Buddhist, but I practice meditation. I'm not a nudist, but I'm naked on occasion.
That was nice.
So I asked, I was asking something about this whole idea in Buddhism. A very central idea is that nothing is real. You know, like our whole life, everything we experience is delusion, and that's kind of the heart of the the Diamond Sutra, the Heart Sutra. By the way, if you've never read the Heart Sutra or the Diamond Sutra, highly recommend it. Start with the Heart Sutra. It's only a couple pages. It's really short. You can read it in English or in Chinese. And it's very valuable. I mean, it's just really, it goes right to the core of like Mahayana Buddhist teaching, which is basically that everything is emptiness at its core, and it's interesting, when you talk about like physics, particle physics and Buddhism, this is kind of the same idea, like everything is energy, nothing is really substantial matter. The things that we, perceive as matter are really just energy arranged in a different way. Right. Anyway, I'm digressing here, but I was asking her some questions about this kind of stuff, like how, if everything is empty, if everything is delusion, if, we're rowing our boat down the stream, life is but a dream, whatever, why does it matter? Why does it matter if I'm a good person or not? Why does it matter if I make good choices? Why don't I just do what I freaking want to do all the time, And so here's what I wrote it down. It was so good. Like, I'm supposed to be teaching her English and I'm sitting here taking notes, I'll read this to you, and you can cut it. It's going to be long, but I'll just read this because I know you're really into the virtual reality thing. So she said, life is VR. The different levels that you experience need to be experienced with different kinds of VR headsets. Your body is your VR headset. When you level up, for example, to a heavenly body or something, then you upgrade your hardware and you experience a different game in your software. We can get out of our own consciousness, but we can't get out of the collective consciousness, which is created from the collective karma of all beings. To change the world or to change your environment, you have to change yourself. If you want to switch to another sphere of experience, you have to switch to another set of rules, or you will be destroyed both there and here. In Buddhism, genes are simply your consciousness. This is called the foundation of the assembly. We group ourselves into communities and we pass on beliefs and social values. And usually we take these as real and we carry them our whole lives and even maybe across multiple lifetimes. And this is how collective consciousness is created. And so I'm kind of asking her like, okay, well, how do we create a different kind of consciousness, right? And she said, gratitude is extremely important for purifying the heart. You don't have to find another reality, whether it's through entheogens, hallucinogens, virtual reality, Instagram scrolling, whatever, people always try to find another reality. You don't have to do that. Just be kind and grateful. You are creating this illusion and you can create it with your kindness and gratitude just as easily as you can create it with your selfishness and, smallness. So just continue creating this illusion with your own kindness and gratitude and just enjoy it. Don't be attached to it. Know that it's an illusion, but enjoy it. And also be careful of karma. Physical karma is dominated by mental karma. Be your own master and be careful what you do with your mind. Don't be controlled by the external environment, by other people, whether it be praise or slander. You should be your own self. Always be pure, always be clean. If you're not attached to anything about yourself, you can embrace anything. You won't hurt anyone and you won't be hurt by anyone. This is the safest way to live. What is the meaning of home? A place where you feel peaceful and at ease, where you're not threatened by anything. You don't have to worry about anything. Home is a place where you're safe and at ease. This is the meaning of being at home. Therefore, just be at home in the body. Be at home on earth. Be at home in this reality that you're co-creating. There is no danger. You don't have to understand everything about this process to enjoy it. If you walk into a room and everyone smiles at you and treats you kindly, do you need to know everybody's name to enjoy that party? No, you just enjoy it. The illusion is just a game. Don't take it too seriously. If something comes, let it come. If something goes, let it go. Why don't you just relax and play the game? Let go of fear, play the game. The greatest game is simply being a sentient being. And that's it. That's what she said.
Wow.
There's a lot there, right?
Wow. So she said that in English?
Yeah. Her English is amazing. She's super high level.
That's impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that. And
it's great. I'll send it to you as well. I'll send you a
words.
written copy.
So you just happen to have that on your desktop right now, or do you have that somewhere where you can read it in your office space there, or how did you find that so easily?
Oh, I Google Docs, man. Whenever
Docs.
she starts like going, because I can tell when she's about to start soliloquizing, and so I use Pages on my MacBook, or I just open a Google Doc and I just start typing. All right, keep going. Yep.
So
Because normally I'm taking note of her mistakes if she has pronunciation errors, grammar, and sometimes like when she switches into that like talking about the Buddhism and like the scriptures and stuff. I just start taking notes because I know she's going to say something golden. I've got like lots of these
So you
little
didn't
snippets of her
record
stuff.
the audio and transcribe it. You live
Yeah.
transcribed it
I,
while she
I
was
live
speaking?
typed it. Yeah, because she doesn't want to be recorded. That's her request for our classes was please don't
Ah,
record me. And
okay.
so I let her know that I'm taking notes on the things that she's teaching me. As I'm teaching her, she's teaching me.
Wow.
But she doesn't want to be recorded, so I just do it all through note taking.
Wow,
Yeah.
that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Yeah,
great.
you're welcome, man.
Um, okay, so that brings up a topic of teaching. So
Mm.
you've been a great student, and you're still a student, and you're improving your knowledge of classical Chinese and all of these different things. But you're also teaching your native language, which is English, obviously. And
Mm.
I just wanted to comment that you said you're learning from your students, but you're a great teacher because you're talking to them about their lives, right? So that's what
Right.
people can always talk the most enthusiastically about, and
Yeah.
with the most interest is the things that appeal to them, that are relevant to their lives. So you talk
Hmm.
to a Buddhist nun about her Buddhist philosophy, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have any other um, pointers that you want, or realizations, or things that you've learned by being a teacher about communicating with people? Because I've personally noticed, I've done some teaching too with um, students for English, teaching English online, and I've noticed that some people just either by nature, or just by the way that they've become as a person, they don't naturally know how to communicate with people.
Mm.
So I think that being
Yeah.
a teacher, or it is really important to ask people questions that will allow them to talk in a way that is meaningful to their own lives, right? Do you have
Yeah.
any other pointers that you can give us about uh, talking to people? Like, let's just narrow this down. Pointers for talking to strangers in a social gathering that you don't know.
Man, you should be the one talking about this. That's
No,
your
no, no, no,
specialty,
because
brother.
you're like bouncing off the walls, and you're very um, uninhibited, right? Is that the word? Uninhibited.
Yeah.
Like, you're very good
Yeah,
at
I
that.
think that's a good way to describe me. Brian, put your pants back
Yeah,
on.
sometimes half naked in a public place, but yeah. Do you have any pointers? Let's just say that you're talking to someone that's like shy, an introvert that doesn't like to talk. How do you or let's say that they think that their English isn't good enough. What do you usually tell your students if they have that kind of personality, or that kind of mindset?
Well, I mean, you're kind of asking two questions there, right? Because one question is, how do you deal with like an introvert at a party, right? You meet somebody in a social setting, how do you get them to open up? And that's a little bit different than how you would deal with like someone you're teaching a language to. And there's crossover because obviously sometimes you get students who just don't want to talk, right? Um, for me, just as a general rule, like if you're an English teacher or a language teacher, and you want to get the other person talking, it's well, the good Lord created human beings to have two ears and only one mouth. Listen more than you talk. That's my advice. Like if you want to get people using a target language, ask them questions. If your student's an engineer, ask them questions about engineering. If your student's a musician, ask them about music, because we all love to talk about ourselves, and we all love to talk about the things that are important to us. So if I'm teaching kids, I ask them, "Hey, what do you guys like? What's your favorite thing to do?" If they say drawing, I say, "Cool, tell me about your favorite thing that you drew this week." Or they say Minecraft, I say, "Tell me about Minecraft. I don't know anything about it. What do you do? Who are the characters?" If I'm teaching adults, like you said, if it's a Buddhist, I ask them about Buddhism. If it's an author, I ask them questions. Oh, hey, cool. I've written a book. I want to publish it. How do you do that? Tell me about this process. And then while they're telling me about it, I'm listening for, okay, what grammar points do they get stuck on? What pronunciation issues do they have? And then you can kind of apply, scientific stuff. All right, well, they have trouble with a TH sound. So then I can pause them for a minute and say, okay, when you make your TH, stick your tongue really far out of your mouth to make that TH, But as a teacher, I don't sit there and lecture. I try to let the student talk like 70% of the time, and then I guide them and I make corrections as needed so that they have the experience of learning it themselves. And it's more of a sense of achievement, that feeling that you did it yourself,
Okay. And so now let's flip it and say from the perspective of, let's say you're a person who is introverted and does not like to talk to strangers at a bar or at a conference or a meeting. And from this, like a person that's not like you, what advice do you have to them? And maybe they're even speaking a foreign language in this environment. What advice do you have to this kind of person?
Oh, that's really tough for me because I'm not that kind of person. So I don't really, it's difficult to have the right kind of empathy because, I don't want to come off as flippant and say, oh, just talk to people. Right. I do think we all have things that block us, whether it be in social interactions. Maybe you're shy to talk to other people, or someone wants to talk to you, but you don't really know how to open up to them. Or it could be even bigger things, I want to publish this book or I want to make this album of music, but I'm a little bit afraid to share it with record producers or with publishers, and sometimes, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm coming off as condescending or like trying to psychoanalyze people too much, but if it's difficult to talk with people, there's probably a reason for that, and I'd say to everybody, to anybody, whatever it is that you're trying to overcome, with a very good amount of self-love and self-acceptance and self-compassion, start exploring the reasons. What am I really afraid of? If I talk to somebody, if I'm afraid to like have a conversation with a stranger, can I identify what my fears are about that social interaction? And then can I drag those things out into the light and then look at them and say, is that really true or not? Okay, maybe I have a belief that if I say too much, someone's going to think I'm stupid, or they're going to think that what I have to say isn't interesting. Well, once I identify that and I put words to it, I can then ask myself, is that belief really true? Of course it's not. It's not necessarily. It has as much chance to be true or untrue. Therefore, it's not necessarily true. And so then, well, what if I had the opposite belief? What if I believed that everybody I talk to is going to think I'm the most interesting person on the planet? How would I live my life differently? And I guess that's not really so much language advice as it is like life advice, right?
No.
But I'm always questioning, man, always asking myself these things. Is what I believe really true or not? And 90% of the time, no, it's not.
Okay.
It's just not.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good answer for what you're asking.
No. I think it's good. And I think it reminds me of a Chinese joke. So we're gonna throw some Chinese in here. Let's see if I can get this right without butchering it. Okay, so I'll just say it in very simplified, broken Chinese because I don't remember. I'm just gonna say this off the top of my head, but it's kind of a joke. So they say, 成功有三点. So there are three points for being successful. 成功有三点. 第一点，要坚持。第一点要坚持。Okay. So the first point is you need to persevere and never quit, right? Persevere. Right. 第二点要不要脸。第二点要不要脸。So 不要脸 means to not want face. It means to be shameless. Right?
Yeah, face is a big thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So, and that deals with the ego, right? Not to worry about yourself looking good or whatever. So the first step is to persevere. The second step is to be shameless, right? And 第三点是坚持不要脸。So
keep being shameless.
Yeah, keep being shameless. So I think I really like that. And
That's great.
And I think that like a lot of times, like you said, we are afraid of people thinking, you know, that we're stupid or that we're, you know, somehow not adequate or whatever it may be, that fear. But actually to get over that, it's just like, you know what? You just got to be shameless and not worry what anyone thinks of you and just do your thing. And I think that that's good advice for anyone.
Yeah, man. I mean, everybody's penis is small when you're swimming in a cold river. Don't be afraid to just skinny dip with your homies. You know what I mean?
Excellent.
But it's true. Everybody has the same insecurities is what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Everybody hides it differently, but we all have the same insecurities at heart. And you're right, man. If we can just 坚持不要脸, right?
Yeah.
Just keep being shameless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also the other...
sometimes you just got to dive in.
The other Chinese one is 脸皮厚吃块肉. 脸皮
What is this?
脸皮
I haven't heard that one before.
脸皮厚. Like have thick face skin.
Thick face skin.
吃块肉, like eat a piece of meat. I don't know what it means, but it just means basically like don't be so sensitive to other people's criticism. Like have thicker skin on your face, you know, and tough it out. So I think that's yeah. But
yeah, that's true. I mean, at the end of the day, like you're your own companion. You know, you've been with yourself since you're born. You're going to be with yourself till you die, and we're all going to die. So just don't take it too seriously. Be kind to yourself. Don't worry too much about what other people are thinking because they got their own stuff they're dealing with. And you got to deal with yourself.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, this is turned into like a therapy session.
Cool. I feel therapized.
Yeah, you started it about talking about the body's hardware and software and virtual reality from the teachings of a Buddhist nun.
I could talk about that stuff all day, man. Maybe I should start a podcast, huh?
Yeah. I think it's time. Well, all right. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point to end this. And thank you for sharing all of your wise words and experiences.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And if people want to follow you online, or where do you direct them?
So first of all, like please follow Church of Loops on YouTube. The Church of Loops, LOOPS. I have a personal YouTube account. If you just type in youtube.com and then / XIMENBO. That's XIMENBO. I don't use it that much. I occasionally upload some stuff. I've got some new projects in the works that I wish they were ready. So
how do you say that in Chinese?
Plug them. Ximenbo. Ximenbo. That's my Chinese name.
Okay, Ximenbo.
Yeah. Ximen for Simon, my surname, Simon, and then Bo, like Brian, Bo Lai En. Right?
Okay.
And also on Instagram, you can find me Bodhisattva Official.
Okay, how do you spell that?
Like Bodhi, BODHI _ SATIVA _ and then the word official.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, thank you. And then let's just end this like last 2 minutes. And I want to speak in Chinese so that people can hear you speak Chinese because I think it's funny. Okay. 你能不能讲关于这个臭豆腐，你为什么喜欢吃臭豆腐？
因为好像我记得曾经我的好朋友卡尔有被一个人骂的，有一个男生一个女生，这个男生跟卡尔说，哎，你刚才是不是吃我女朋友的豆腐？然后卡尔说，我不想吃你女朋友的臭豆腐哎。
撒谎，这不是真的
啊！
真的
我乱讲。因为我们曾经做那个 MV 的时候其实我演得很夸张， 但是那个故事其实有一点真实的，因为我第一次来台湾大概十几年前跟 Christine 一起来的，从韩国过来的，然后我一直闻到那个臭豆腐的味道在夜市，我都不敢吃，因为我记得曾经我们在北京的时候，有一些人他们做那个煎的臭豆腐，真的臭到要死，真的臭到不行。然后我在台湾的夜市也不敢吃，然后 Christine 推荐我，哎，你要不要吃？就吃一口吧。味道其实很不错，有香菜啊，有那个辣酱啊，所以我吃了那个炸的臭豆腐，我一吃就喜欢。所以自从那天起，我都很喜欢吃臭豆腐。
一吃见情 or something like that. 一见
对，
钟情，
一见钟情，
一见钟情，一吃钟情，
一见钟情 ，love at first sight， 我一吃钟情，
一吃钟情。
对。
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot, and I think we're gonna have to end it right here, and
Yeah, man.
we'll have to have Simon Bo back on the podcast, and thank you for sharing this. We might have to split this up into two segments because that was nice, and man, that was a real surprise that reading you did from your Buddhist student/teacher.
Cool, man. I've been waiting to share that with you, actually. I'm glad that we could do it in this way and share it with more people. Yeah.
Okay, should we, are you fit? Do you have anything else you want to say, or should I just?
We're good, brother. We're
Okay.
good, man. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. This has been really fun.
Okay, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. And remember that you can find the written transcripts on our website, streetwisenglish.com. You can find the written transcripts, you can find images of our guest speakers, and you can also find information on how to email us or book an English lesson on the website. So, thanks again, and we will see you next time.
Hello everyone, we are the Church of Loops. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. You don't like it today, try tomorrow.